Children's Hour is a 1961 movie directed by William Wyler based on the 1934 play by Lillian Hellman. The story follows two best friends since college, Martha Doby and Karen Wright. The gals have recently opened up a schoolhouse for young girls, and when the movie starts, things are going swell. The school is finally starting to turn a profit. They're beloved by the children and the community. Karen is engaged to the local Dr. Joe Carden. Things are going great. Until one of their more spiteful and spoiled and dubious and bratty students, Mary Tilford, tells her rich, influential grandmother that Karen and Martha have been intimate with each other. And this rumor causes the women to slowly lose everything. Now, this movie is fucking grim, okay? If you're hoping for some cute school teacher lesbian romance, it's not this. I'm gonna focus on the lesbian representation in the movie and why I think it's bad. Yeah, it's not good. But first, I'm gonna give a little backstory on the story. The story is based on a real-life case from Edinburgh, Scotland in 1810. Similar to the play, a student accuses two headmistresses of some lesbian funny business, and her rich grandma gets the parents to pull their daughters out of school. The headmistresses sue the grandmother for libel, which also happens in the play and the movie. In the real case, the headmistresses win the suit, but the reputation is irreparably damaged. And in the play, the teachers lose the suit, and their reputation is irreparably damaged. This was actually Hellman's first play, and it was a massive success, launching her into playwright stardom. But despite the play's success, it was still banned in London, Chicago, and Boston because of the lesbian implication. Because of this, the first movie adaptation in 1936 was heavily edited. The Hays Code was already in effect, so the movie had to play by the rules. The Hays Code was a list of 36 rules that restricted what filmmakers could show on screen, which included sexual perversions, which included anything queer. It was a conservative reaction to perceived 1920s debauchery. The first film adaptation was These Three. Okay, side note, doesn't that kind of sound like a sitcom title? Like, get a load of these three. Okay, back to the analysis. This version took what made the play interesting and totally neutered it. This time, the lie is that Martha's having an affair with Karen's fiancé, Joe. I don't buy that this would cause everyone to pull their daughters out of school, though. Maybe the town would gossip, like, did you hear the local doctor is involved with 2 teachers? But this version does reveal something interesting about the Children's Hour. Hellman herself said that it's not really a play about lesbianism, but about a lie. The bigger the lie, the better, as always. Well, Hellman, I call bullshit. In taking out the lesbianism, These Three proves how crucial it is to the story and to the story's perception by audiences. Like, sure, straight affairs are still immoral, but it's not life-ruining. Hellman admitted she needed something big, something scandalous. And few things are more scandalous to 20th century audiences than deviancy from heterosexuality. I mean, it's obvious in the marketing as well. This version of the movie poster just has different as the tagline, right beside Martha and Karen. The ellipses leaves it open for audiences to interpret what's so different about them. There's a disclaimer at the bottom, you can't really read it, but it says, because of the adult nature of its theme, this motion picture is not recommended for children. So we know that whatever makes them different is also not suitable for children, or at least it's implied to be. Martha is grabbing Karen and staring at her with intensity, while Karen looks uncomfortable, scared, and worried. It's important to note that this power dynamic isn't in the movie at all. The poster is intentionally playing up the predatory lesbian stereotype. But the poster makes a promise to the audience that the movie will involve lesbianism in some way. What it doesn't highlight, however, is the lie. The story is about the lie insofar as the lie is life-ruining, different, salacious. And because we live in a society, that lie has to be about lesbians. The Children's Hour is inseparable from its theme of lesbianism. One of the movie's central themes is lesbianism. Then what is it saying about it? Well, it technically doesn't say anything. Yeah, the word lesbian is never said. It's only heavily implied. But it is still sending a message. This is Karen's full name. Can't really draw any conclusions from Martha Doby's name, but look at these instances of Martha's aunt describing Martha.
You've always had a jealous, possessive nature, even as a child. If you had a friend, you'd be upset if she liked anybody else. And that's what's happening now. And it's unnatural. It's just as unnatural as it can be. Friendship between women, yes, but not this insane devotion.
While Karen is correct, Martha is unusual. And the dichotomies continue. The movie itself is presented in binaries. Movies in color were all the rage by the 1950s, but this movie is intentionally in black and white. We are looking at this world through a black and white lens. Karen is correct for her straightness. Martha is unnatural for her gayness. The story can be seen as a fight between goodness and badness in a way. The badness of spreading lies as well as society's willingness to ruin women through these lies versus the goodness of those who are victims of it and fight against it. But the binary can't seem to handle Martha. She's presented as good and righteous when she's fighting against a lie, but it isn't a lie for her. She is in love with Karen. That's why she's categorized as unnatural in the first place. So the movie has to do something about the Martha problem. The first time we see Martha and Karen's fiancé Joe alone together, Martha keeps throwing small jabs at Joe during the conversation, and Joe says,
"Martha, you've been a little sharp with me lately."
Then Martha notices the smudge on her face in the reflection of the pot. The smudge is another indicator that Martha is tainted in some way, while Karen's appearance is never presented as anything other than perfect. And the fact that Martha notices the smudge after Joe calls her out indicates that she's realizing that there's something different about her hostility towards him. The movie constantly fears the different and the unnatural, which are just other ways of saying deviancy from the norm. In the scene where Mary tells her grandma the lie, it isn't until she uses the word
unnatural for a woman to feel that way
that her grandma starts to look uncomfortable. That word set off grandma's lesbian alarm bells. And when she has to face Karen and Martha after effectively destroying their school, she explains that
You've been playing with a lot of children's lives. That's why I had to stop you. What they are is possibly their own business. But it becomes a great deal more than that when children are concerned.
the movie is echoing concerns that became associated with boarding schools. Sexologists came to understand lesbianism as being one of three things: congenital, temporary, or acquired by living in same-sex institutions. If, according to society, lesbianism is contagious and a source of corruption, then this is a serious accusation these ladies are facing. But this presupposition of lesbianism as a means of corruption is never really challenged. The movie is explicit in condemning a society that causes the needless ruin of women through false accusations. And this is best exemplified when the grandma visits after the women lose the libel suit against her. She comes to apologize because she found out that her granddaughter lied. But the rumor has wreaked its havoc. They essentially can't stay in town. But this truth still absolves Karen. So what about Martha? Well, right before the grandma comes to apologize and reveals that her granddaughter, that's constantly lying and scheming, lied and schemed, Martha actually comes out to Karen. The scene is emotionally charged, with Martha having a full breakdown at her own revelation. She realizes why she was so hostile to Joe. She realizes her aunt was right about her. She realizes she's always been in love with Karen. And by God, is this scene full of internalized homophobia.
Oh, it's all my fault. I ruined your life and I ruined my own. Oh, I feel so damn sick and dirty. I can't stand it anymore.
these claims go unchallenged. The lie is resolved, the lesbian remains. But Martha can't be categorized as fully bad because of her sexuality. She's tainted, but she's still a sympathetic character. You grow to care for her and her struggles. She's a good teacher. She cares about the school, the kids, Karen, and she even cares for Joe. She's not meant to be a bad person, but she's only absolved of the lesbian accusation if she's not a lesbian. According to the movie, she isn't bad, but she isn't blameless either. And so emerges the Martha problem. Martha can't be a victim of society in the same way Karen is, because the accusation is true of her and not of Karen. And the movie never challenges the assumption that lesbianism is a dangerous and corrupting force, leaving the audience with the same assumption. So Martha can't be a victim of society in this sense either, because lesbianism is condemned. There doesn't seem to be a suitable place in the world of the Children's Hour for Martha. So she kills herself. Yeah, I told you it was grim. She commits suicide not only because of her internalized homophobia, but also external homophobia. Everyone in the movie thinks of lesbianism as sinful, unnatural, and deviant. The movie is telling us Martha is a teacher. Martha is around children because she's a teacher. Martha is a lesbian. Being a lesbian can be learned. Martha can teach others, including children, to be a lesbian. But also, being a lesbian corrupts. Being a lesbian is life-ruining. So Martha has the ability to corrupt and ruin lives because she is a lesbian. The last shot we see of Karen, she looks almost hopeful. She gets to have a future and begin anew. But there is no hope for Martha. The Children's Hour leaves no room for lesbians. It doesn't matter that being a lesbian shouldn't be life-ruining. The lie is resolved, but the lesbian remains. The danger remains. So they killed her. What is up, YouTube? Don't forget to smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what other depressing lesbian movies I should watch next. Bye.